In 12th century warfare, line of sight was usually everything. But there was a warrior who could hit a target in absolute darkness, relying purely on sound to guide his arrow, a rare and deadly archery skill known as Shabd Bedi Ban. While this sounds like a cheat code for a fantasy protagonist, the 12th century Indian emperor Prithviraj Chauhan actually performed it as documented reality. His physical stats were high from the start. Historical accounts describe a young prince being ambushed by a lion while out hunting. While his companions retreated in panic, he stood his ground unarmed, grabbed the beast by the neck, and physically tore its jaws apart with his bare hands. He possessed a terrifying mix of raw strength and absolute fearlessness. Long before he ever took the throne, he was already recognized as a dominant, overpowered force on the battlefield. This sprawling hilltop fort shows the massive scale and strategic high ground of the empire he inherited. By the age of 14, Prithviraj already shouldered the responsibility of ruling both the Ajmer and Delhi thrones. He secured his power violently, crushing internal rebellions from relatives who tried to exploit his youth. Once his home was secure, he pushed his borders outward, rapidly expanding his control across northern India. His military campaigns were so systematically successful that he neutralized nearly all rival kings in the region. He became the most dominant sovereign on the subcontinent, effectively untouchable. Which leaves us with a historical puzzle. How does an undefeated warrior with maximum physical stats, holding a massive empire, lose everything to a single mistake? The answer arrived from the West in the form of Muhammad Ghauri. Ghauri was a ruthless ruler from the Ghurid dynasty, and he wanted permanent territorial conquest in India rather than a quick raid for gold. In 1191, their forces collided at the First Battle of Tarain. This was a severe mismatch of military doctrines. Ghauri brought fast, mobile cavalry archers, while Prithviraj commanded a massive, heavily armored infantry. Look closely at this ancient stone relief carving. It provides historical proof of Prithviraj's ultimate weapon, Rajput war elephants. The terrifying, unblockable charge of these massive beasts completely shattered the invaders' front lines. During the chaos, Ghauri engaged in direct face-to-face combat with the Rajput commander and was critically wounded by a spear. Seeing their leader fall, the invading army was completely routed and fled the field. Prithviraj had won the battle through sheer, overwhelming brute force. But in the aftermath, he failed to neutralize the overarching strategic threat. This flowchart illustrates Prithviraj syndrome, a fatal adherence to a chivalric warrior code that prioritizes mercy over pragmatic survival. Following this strict code, Prithviraj refused to strike a retreating enemy. Instead of executing or imprisoning the Khatrib Sultan, he granted him a full pardon and let him walk away. According to historical accounts, Prithviraj actually defeated and forgave Ghauri multiple times. Each pardon allowed the enemy to retreat to Ghazni, rebuild his forces, and study Rajput weaknesses. Applying honorable combat rules to an opponent playing a zero-sum game of annihilation was the fatal glitch in Prithviraj's operating system. Exactly 1 year later, in 1192, Ghauri returned. But he completely abandoned direct confrontation in favor of a revamped strategy focused on mobility and deception. He initiated psychological warfare immediately. Ghauri sent a message feigning a truce negotiation, convincing the Rajput army to drop its guard and lose its combat readiness. This map visualization shows exactly how Ghauri's forces operated during the Second Battle of Tarain. Small, highly mobile cavalry units broke off from a static central block to continuously harass the Rajput forces with arrows, purposely avoiding the hand-to-hand combat where the Indians excelled. The continuous harassment exhausted the Rajput soldiers and their animals all night. Then, at dawn, Ghauri launched a devastating ambush while the camp was disorganized. The battle was a slaughter, leading directly to Prithviraj's unexpected capture. Ghauri didn't win by being stronger. He won because his tactical deception completely neutralized Prithviraj's physical strength and numerical superiority. This octagonal brick structure sits in the dry, hilly landscape of modern-day Afghanistan, the foreign, isolating environment of Ghazni. Here, Prithviraj endured brutal imprisonment, yet he absolutely refused to bow or submit to his captor. In retaliation for this defiance, Ghauri ordered a sadistic punishment. His guards drove burning iron rods into the emperor's eyes, blinding him permanently. But then, Prithviraj's loyal court poet, Chand Bardai, arrived in Gasti. He hatched a desperate scheme to bait the sultan, loudly boasting to the court that the blind king could still flawlessly execute his Shabd Bedi Ban archery. Ghauri arranged a massive public exhibition to mock his defeated enemy. In reality, the archer and the poet were preparing a highly calculated, mathematical assassination. As the blind king drew his bow, Chand Bardai recited a specific poem. The verses secretly transmitted the exact spatial coordinates, distance and elevation of Ghauri's throne directly to Prithviraj. Relying entirely on sound, precise math, and years of muscle memory, Prithviraj released the string. The arrow flew across the hall and struck the sultan in the chest, killing him instantly. In the immediate aftermath, before the stunned guards could react, Prithviraj and Chand Bardai turned their daggers on each other. They took their own lives to ensure they died on their own terms, denying the enemy the final kill. It is a cinematic ending. However, modern historical evidence points to a different timeline, showing Ghauri lived until 1206. This epic conclusion is largely recognized as a culturally vital myth from the text Prithviraj Raso, but the power of the legend remains. It proves that while superhuman prowess and strict codes of honor inspire immortal myths, in a ruthless world, a single strategic error is what writes the final history.